Welcome to a video that was 3 years in the making.
This video is not sponsored by any of the companies mentioned.
Hi, Shanna Rowe Jackson here from Caution Artist at Play, and today I am finally doing a sketchbook tour with you. I got this in 2019. This is just a fun little watercolor sketchbook that I got from the Bowdoin Museum of Art when they had a Winslow Homer exhibition going on. And I think it's just Winsor & Newton paper. And then obviously it says down here, Bowdoin College Museum of Art, which is funny because it also has Philadelphia Museum of Art up here. But anyway, you may not be able to find this exact one online, but I think that Winsor & Newton has a few watercolor sketchbooks out there, and I'm sure it's very similar. It's just a cold pressed paper, and the front is actually a picture of Winslow Homer's actual watercolor palette, which they had on display at the museum when Jason and I went, and oh my gosh, it was so cool to see in person. It was amazing to see his work, but it was also amazing to see his actual watercolor palette. So you know how I am with art supplies. I was like over the moon. So when I saw this, I had been looking for a good watercolor sketchbook, and when I saw this at the museum in the gift shop, I'm like, okay, that's what I'm getting. So that's where I got this. And yeah, some of these pieces you will recognize from previous videos, but there's also a lot in here that I've never even posted on social media. I think my husband might be the only one who's seen everything in here, and there might even be a couple things that even he hasn't seen. This is typically where I come to experiment. You've seen me do some art supply reviews in here, but I also have come here when I was just feeling creative, or if I didn't really know what I wanted to create and just started creating. There's a lot of abstract and a lot of illustrative work. There's a few realistic things, but for the most part, this was just a lot of experimentation, a lot of fun, a lot of playing with mixed media. And yeah, so let's get to it. Okay, so the first piece that I did when I got this notebook was one with India ink. And I did have a video on this. This was to show the versatility of India ink, and I just used India ink to create a fun little moonscape. So you may recognize this one. And I do offer prints of this. I will link my print site in the description below because there's a few in here that I offer prints of. But if you see something in here that you think I should offer as a print, let me know. Okay, and this one was with some praying watercolors. This is one of those abstract experimentation pieces. Obviously, I had really nothing in mind. I just wanted to create. So what I did was I sprayed the paper down with a little spray bottle, and then I actually took like a thin brush and applied the watercolor in little lines, and then let the pigment just flow wherever it was going to go. And this is what I ended up coming up with. So I thought that was pretty fun. I feel like it was more vibrant when I first finished it, but these are just, you know, kids' watercolors. It was a super fun time though. And then this one you may recognize. I also offer prints of this on my site as well. This was from when I did a video about buying art supplies from Wish, I think it was. One of those cheap companies that you order something and then you don't get it till like months later. These are actually Faber-Castell watercolors, and I had so much fun with them, but I couldn't find a lot of information about them online. So I do offer prints of this, but I would never really offer the original because I don't know about the light fastness. And I love the texture and the leaves, and yeah, I had a lot of fun with this. This is one that is more in line with my regular style in here. I apologize if you could hear that. There was just a plane going overhead. And also, I apologize for the changing light. This is probably not going to be the best lighting. It is a beautiful fall day here, and it's mostly sunny out, but there's been the occasional cloud, and it's windy, and so there might be some shifting in light. Okay, so this one is another one from a video I did. This was from a topical video about 10 things that I learned in art school. And it's just a fun little mixed media piece that I did using gouache and marker, I think probably Pitt pens. And it has like a gold, it's not the most shimmery gold, but a nice gold outline. Not my best work, but you know what? This this is a lot of experimentation, so don't expect to see my best work here. But I definitely really, I don't know, I had a lot of fun with it. I mean, there are some things I probably would have changed if I ever did it again, but this was one where I just went into it and played around and just saw what came out. I didn't really have a plan. I didn't really set up the composition ahead of time or anything like that, so it was a lot of fun, and they work really well together. That's one thing that I really love about the work that I've done in this sketchbook, is that I have discovered a lot of different mixed media techniques that I can use in my other work, because this is where I came to play with materials, and the Pitt pens definitely go well with gouache. And I often write the medium down on the page, so that way there, if there's a combination I like, I can look back and reference it. This one is from another video. I think it was the top 10 reasons why we need art, and I believe that this was mostly watercolor pencil and colored pencil and a little bit of watercolor as well. And this goes right in line with my candy series, even though most of my candy series is basically just colored pencil, and they're usually bigger than this. But I just sat down, again, I didn't have a reference for this one. You'll see that theme here a lot. A lot of this sketchbook was done from imagination. But I just sat down and kept drawing peppermint and kept drawing candy canes, and I had so much fun, and it is one of my favorites. It's also very popular online. This, again, is something else that I have prints and products offered for. This one you may also recognize. I think that this was from one of my cheap art supply videos where I talked about using praying watercolors because they're very reasonably priced, very vibrant. And again, this was just a fun little piece that I did mostly from imagination. I might have had a reference from my yard as far as the clouds go, but honestly, I don't remember. I know obviously the color scheme and everything else was from imagination. I just went with it. Here is one that I don't believe I've ever published online. It was just a fun experiment that I did while watching TV, playing around with Pitt pens. I wanted to be colorful. I wanted it to be graphic and angular about it. And so I just sat down, started drawing some triangular shapes, and decided to go with a nice, fun rainbow scheme, almost in like a variegated way. So that was a lot of fun, and it was a great way to practice markers, water-based markers on this paper. Obviously, this isn't the best paper for water-based markers, but they blended surprisingly well, and you will see me using Pitt pens a lot in this sketchbook. This one was just a piece where I wanted to sit down and play with the Neocolor 2 watercolor crayons. You know what? I don't think I've ever done a video on the Neocolor 2. I might have to do that at some point. I've done a video on the Caran d'Ache Neocolor 1s, but I don't think I ever have done one strictly on the Neocolor 2s. Like, I've used them in videos, but not done a video about them. But anyway, this was just playing around. Obviously, from my head, it's not the best composition, not much going on here, but I just wanted to play with pigment. I just wanted to color and play, and I did. I colored, and then I took water and I just wiped it out, and this is what I came up with, and I had fun with it. It's kind of serene. This one is one that I did more for therapy for myself. I love succulents. You've seen me draw succulents on the channel before, and I'm also somebody who I've been trying to get into meditation and find ways to relax. I do have anxiety, and I am somebody who tends to be a perfectionist, and all this combination tends to, I always say, like, I'm a free spirit trapped in an overthinker's mind, because inside I'm kind of hippy-dippy and fun-loving, but when it comes to everyday life, man, do I get stressed out easily. And so, and even when it comes to artwork, which is another reason why I think it's important to have a place where you can go and play. I have my realistic artwork that takes me hours or days to do, but then I have my sketchbook where I come to play. And that's also another reason why it took me so long to fill this sketchbook, because I'm not making it a consistent practice because I don't want my sketchbook to be a stressor for me. So I am not setting limitations on myself and telling myself, you have to draw in your sketchbook every day, because then it just puts added pressure to myself and adds something else to my daily checklist. And then it's not as fun anymore. And so, yeah, anyways, that was a tangent, but I drew the nice little succulent. And then I wrote, breathe out stress, anxiety, fear, negativity, pain, doubt, darkness, the past, insecurity. And then I wrote, breathe in positivity, strengths, God's light, love, good vibes, peace, inner strength, dreams, success, prosperity. You can and will succeed. I wrote law of attraction. You are what you dream. It's basically just an inspirational kind of piece. So this is one of my favorite pieces. And then this one was with praying watercolors, Pitt pens, and gouache. And so it was a fun little mixed media piece. I love the colors. Yeah, so much fun. I had a lot of fun with that one. And this next one is probably the biggest masterpiece of the entire book. So again, sometimes I come to the sketchbook and I want to create something, but I have no idea what I want to create. And sometimes it comes out like this. My name written over and over again, some crystals, some smears. And then I also do like to write poetry, but that's not something I feel comfortable with sharing online at this point. And so there is a piece here that I wrote for like a poem. It's just like probably like the start of a poem or something like that. But yeah, so I covered that with a sticky note. And there's one other piece in here, I think, that I did something similar that you'll see covered with sticky notes, but that's what that's from. Okay, so this one is actually from another video as well. Definitely more illustrative than what I'm used to working with. But this video was about using primary colors to make a piece. And I definitely love it, but I wish that I had written this differently. I wish that I had written, if summer had it, I don't know. I wish that I would have set it up differently because I think people are going to read it. If summer, it would. Had a taste be, instead of reading it as if summer had a taste, it would be blueberries in Maine. So like, I kind of wish that I had split this up a little bit differently. I don't know. What do you think? And yeah, I definitely had a lot of fun with it. The only thing that I'm not a huge fan of is I feel like there's not enough value range in it. I don't feel like I have enough contrast here between the blueberries themselves and the background. But yeah, so this is gouache. I think this might be the Holbein gouache, their primary set, if I remember right. I don't think, for some reason, I didn't write that down, and I didn't even write the exact date on it, which is weird, because I usually do write that information. But yeah, so you could see it kind of got some stuff on it from a different piece. But definitely had some fun with that. But I think I got the point across in the video anyways, that you can definitely mix a lot of colors from the primaries. Definitely. I don't know if you caught that, because apparently that's my word of the day. Turn it into a drinking game, because that would definitely be a drunken good time. Anyway, this one was another big experimentation. I feel like it was praying watercolors and Pitt pens and maybe a little bit of gouache, although I just say watercolors and markers, so maybe no gouache. But oh wait, might be my metallic markers, like my no-name metallic markers I have. I had taken some leaves and put them down. You can actually see like different veins from other leaves. And man, if this is purple, this is just so purple. And this one says, nature is full of magic. And again, if I was planning this better, because like if I were to do like a finished piece that I planned on selling, I would have set my composition up a little bit better. But I was just going with it. I wanted to play with abstract. I wanted to play with materials, but I'm not a fan of how I did the writing. Again, I wish I had set that up better. That is something that I am not very experienced in. Typography and, you know, using words in artwork. That's something I want to get better at, and I did a lot more of that in here as practice. And so again, each of these pieces is a learning experience. I didn't set out to make a masterpiece here, but I definitely learned something from it. And that is one of the great things about working in a sketchbook. This next one was another fun little inspirational piece that I decided to do. And I used watercolors, the praying watercolors, and some Inktense pencils for the details. And these white spots, I actually used a Molotow masking pen. So it's masking fluid in a pen, or like marker form. And so I put the masking fluid down first. I wrote the words dreams, faith, hope, love, spirit, all that, and like the fun little designs. I did all that first, did the watercolor over it, and then I peeled up the masking fluid and it exposed these words and stuff. And that was so much fun. That was just like, I don't know. That was such a relaxing project. Okay, here is another one that you may recognize. This was from a video that I did about using just one color to create a piece, just a monochromatic painting. And of course, it was obviously this time of year because I wanted to do something spooky. Are you noticing a theme? Did you watch my video last week? Because my video last week also had gravestones, trees, and ghosts. So apparently I am inspired. Oh, you all know I'm inspired by trees in the sky and things like that. But apparently I love these little ghosties. I just think they're cute. But yeah, so this one I definitely had a ton of fun with. I wish it was a little bit cleaner. And I used the masking pen in this as well. And you can kind of see that's where I got my highest highlights and stuff like that. I do wish it were a little bit cleaner, but other than that, it was so much fun. And it was just nice to sit down with one color and not have to worry about color mixing or any of that. And to come up with something that's moody and has a specific theme. And this is the M. Graham watercolor. Oh my gosh, this one is one of my favorites. This is my Gussie boy. Not to be not to be too TMI, but this comes from a reference photo that I took while I was in the bathroom. Because this is the view I have if the dog is allowed to follow me in the bathroom while I'm sitting there. His face is pretty much in my face. And so I took a picture pretty much to send to my husband to be like, look at your son. Look what he's doing right now. And that's like our bathroom mat. But anyway, but I loved the picture and I loved the fact that like it was just his cute little snout. And so I ended up painting it. And it's Happy Gus. It's my Gussie boy, my boxer that follows me around like a toddler and gives me no privacy. But yeah, sorry if that was TMI, but that's my life and that's what it's about. And art imitates life. Absolutely one of my favorites. I can't even deal. He's so cute. This is another one that I didn't have a reference. I just started drawing a face and then I ended up writing some of my poetry. And again, like I just don't feel comfortable sharing it, but I will probably turn this into something more. I didn't have a reference, just drew a lady from my imagination, and it was kind of spooky and dreamlike, and yeah. Okay, so here's another monochromatic piece using just, I think, maybe Payne's Gray? I don't remember which color I used. It's watercolor and gouache anyway, and I believe this might be, I don't remember if this is M. Graham or Holbein watercolor. I don't know why I didn't write that down. Like, usually I write it down. There's a lot of these that I write the actual specifics down on. Don't know why I didn't here. But yeah, so basically just wanted to paint a monochromatic scene of trees. I'm obsessed with trees. I'm just, you know, clearly, you know it. You've seen my channel. And play around with value and limited color and some gouache for the snowflakes. Just a nice moody, stormy scene. And I've done paintings like this before in oil and things like that. But yeah, this didn't have much of a reference. No, it didn't have any reference, I don't think. I might have looked at some of the trees out in my yard when I was painting this, but a lot of it was from memory. Okay, so this one was another watercolor experimentation. I believe this one was done with the Praying watercolors. It is the same premise as the one in the beginning where I told you that I wet the paper first. Where is that one? You know, the masterpiece. I wet my paper first, and then I went in with lines. Well, this time I decided to create an actual image out of it. So I didn't wet the paper as much as I did there, because I wanted to be able to keep the lines enough to show what I was trying to draw. And this is my rooster, Crooked Toes McGee. He was born, we actually hatched him. We had incubated some eggs a while back and we hatched him. And he has one foot that is a little bit crooked, but he gets around fine. He's never had any issues. And so, yeah, that's Mr. McGee. We love him. He's actually a pretty sweet rooster, and he takes pretty good care of our girls, so. All right, here's another one that's an absolute fantastic masterpiece that's going to be worth millions someday. Don't be jealous. I'm not showing you this to make you jealous now. This was just me playing around with the Neocolor 2s again. I don't know why, like, I'm like, oh, I want to play with the Neocolor 2s, and then I get in here and I'm just like, eh, there it is. Nice cherries and a leaf, and really I wasn't able to get the detail I wanted because they're crayons and it's a small sketchbook and I'm working even smaller in a small sketchbook. It was just a place to play. I was probably watching Golden Girls and sitting there sipping some tea and just playing around with crayons because I'm an adult and that's what I do. So it just goes to show, like, you're gonna have a range in your sketchbook. Like, already you can see that I have a range here. And again, it's kind of what a sketchbook is for. I still learned something about the properties of Neocolor 2s. I think I got bored halfway through, and that's why it never became anything at any point. But I still learned something from it. And it was fun to play around. All right, put your sunglasses on. Because this one you may recognize from when I reviewed the Holbein acrylic gouache. And these colors, holy guacamole, I think that there's the opera pink is in here, and that will blind you. That shit will burn out your retinas in a wonderful, beautiful way, as you can tell. I couldn't even scan this in because my scanner can't even pick up that color pink. It turns everything like a yellow, orange. Like, my scanner was like, bitch, please, this is not happening. But yeah. This was when I was trying the acrylic gouache for the first time. I also did a painting in that video on a panel that was a little bit more illustrative because I like to, sometimes when I'm trying out new materials, I like to try them in different styles on different surfaces and things like that. And so that was one of the pieces that I tried out with the acrylic gouache. This next one is also from a video, and I feel like it's one of my Let's Talk Art videos. But for some reason, I can't think of the specific video. It might have, I think it was the video where I talked about how I actually missed going to art school. I believe that's what this one is from. And it's just this nice, serene, foggy piece. It's a, you know, a little seascape where you can't really see the horizon. And I think it's really fitting, especially for the subject matter of the video, because, you know, you get used to these constructs and you get used to having a certain amount of structure in your life when you have been at a specific job for so long, or when you're in school, or, you know, in a relationship or whatever. And then when that specific situation ends, you don't necessarily know what's in store for you in the future. And in this one, you know, I still don't know. I know what I want to do with my life and I'm working towards it. But at the same time, like, it's all kind of a blur. You know, there's no way of knowing. So I think that this piece was really fitting for that. Very serene and very moody. And that was my cat sneezing, in case you heard that. I don't know if you heard that, but that was Leo. This one was me playing around with some Holbein watercolors. So this was after I think I had done my review of them, where I painted a pair. Then I took to my sketchbook and played around with them some more. And there's actually quite a bit of Holbein watercolors used in this book. And this, again, was not from any sort of reference. I just kind of had a vision in my mind of a nice field during a sunset, and I wanted to play with these warm colors. And so I just sat down and painted, and this is what I came up with. Okay, so this one you probably recognize from my video where I used the Caran d'Ache Neocolor 1 wax pastels or crayons. These are the ones that are not water soluble, and I had a blast with them. Now, I don't think this is the best surface for them. You know, it being cold press, yes, cold press can hold a lot of layers, but at the same time, you're kind of fighting the texture of the paper. But I still think I did very well considering, and I really got a feel for the product. And now I like to use these on the Canson plein air mixed media art boards. You saw me do a video on those recently where I discovered that that was a really great surface for this, and I've actually done a piece since that I didn't film, but I think I did a short on it and a TikTok on it, my pumpkin piece that I did recently. But anyway, I had so much fun with this piece, and this is one of the pieces in here that is more in line with the regular style that most people are used to seeing me do, which is realism. But yeah, lots of fun. I did this from a reference photo that I took of cherries a while back, which I bought specifically just so I could take reference photos of. I mean, I love cherries, but yeah, I am somebody who's like, ooh, I want to draw that fruit. I guess I could eat some of it. I'll go buy some so I can draw it. Like, yeah. But anyway, definitely love that. There's prints available of this one on my site as well. Okay, so this one is one where I was experimenting around with texture using saran wrap, and I had originally planned to film this for a video, and then I had to film another one, but I did show this in the one that I filmed because I ended up missing half my footage, I think. It's just a fun little mixed media piece using Derwent light fast colored pencils and Holbein watercolor, and I use the fact that colored pencils can be used as a resist to watercolor. Watercolor does not usually go over colored pencil very well because colored pencil is wax and oil based, and so it kind of rejects the water. I used that to my advantage. So it is okay to use a water-based media over wax-based media when you are looking for a specific effect. But if you're looking to cover that wax-based media, that's not necessarily going to be archival because it does push the water-based stuff away, and I wanted that. So she is basically in colored pencil, and so is he, and then I did watercolor over it, so that way there she would still stand out, but I tried not to fill the tooth of the paper with a colored pencil, so that way there, when I put the watercolor over it, it would take on some of that tint, you know, the paper that was still exposed and not covered by pencil would take on the color of the watercolor. Yeah, definitely fun. And then I used saran wrap to create some of the water texture, and then came in with more pencil to create some more water texture. And again, this was just me experimenting and playing around with materials so that I could see how I could use this mixed media technique to my advantage. And this is the piece that ended up being done in the video itself as a redo. And here you can see more of that natural texture that was left from the saran wrap. I love it. It was so much fun, and I definitely am going to be using these techniques more in the future with more intention and more purpose in pieces that are intended to be like more finished pieces. Okay, so this one was also in a video. This one was when I did, why does that say, I don't know why I wrote Sketchbox. This is actually an Art Snacks box. I don't know why I wrote Sketchbox, but that was Art Snacks. My husband had bought me an Art Snacks box. It was the May 21 Art Snacks box, because you can go on to Art Snacks and buy previous boxes. And they had advertised to him because they apparently know he's married to an artist. I feel so bad for him because he obviously buys gifts for me. So at this point, he gets bombarded by art supply companies and stuff to buy their stuff because it's like, oh, you know an artist, here we go. But anyway, so he ended up seeing the Art Snacks box and he thought that that was a pretty cool idea. So he got it for me as a gift. And this is the Royal Talons gouache, which was beautiful. I had so much fun with this. So this was just me using the colors that were in that. It came with a graphite pencil, which I used as an underlayer. And then I had a white and a magenta, and I used those to create the piece. I love that gouache, and that was such a, like, I bet my husband probably regrets getting that for me now because I've gone out and bought a lot of that gouache since, and they're like $9 a tube. So there's that. But yeah, that video is up if you want to see that. It's on the channel. You may also recognize this one from where I did a review of the Albrecht Dürer watercolor markers. That rainbow was magic. I'm just saying, if you haven't seen this video, you got to go see it because it was amazing. I'm just saying. I'm not saying the painting's amazing. I'm just saying how I made the rainbow was amazing because I did not expect it to work and I almost pooped my pants. I'm just saying. I love it so much. And I did attempt to do a double rainbow. That didn't work out. But I had so much fun with this piece. This again is another one that is from my imagination. So was this one. So was that one. So was that. Most of them are from my imagination. But yeah, I just sat down and played with the markers. Wanted to get a feel for them because as you know, I use the Faber-Castell artist pens a lot. But this is their watercolor markers, their Albrecht Dürer watercolor markers, and they're juicier and thicker, and they're supposed to wash out more with water. And so this video is up on the channel as well. I will try to link the related videos in the description as well. I might miss some here or there though, because there are quite a few. And then this one I did after that video because I wanted to play with them some more. So this was just to play with the Albrecht Dürer watercolor marker some more. And honestly, I love this one too. This was so much fun. And I also used the Royal Talons gouache to get the stars and some gel pen for some of the detail. So that was another fun mixed media piece. And it's just like a whole different world. I love the colors and the silhouette and the moon. I don't know. And the stars. I love it all. This one's one of my favorites. Again, just out of my head, I didn't have a reference. I just started playing with colors. I knew I wanted a landscape, started with the sky, and then went from there. You may also recognize this one. This one is from where I used the Derwent Graphitint pans for the first time. I had already had a review on my channel from when I did the pencils, and then I bought the pans, and I used mostly the pans as a base and then the pencils a little bit for detail. And this one, I do offer prints of it, but I have to say, the scan looks way different than this looks in person. This definitely looks more graphite-like in person, but the scan came out so vibrant. I didn't have to like really adjust anything to get it to look that vibrant. And I loved the way the scan looked, so I didn't adjust it to try to make it look more like this because I figured, you know what? Some things can just be prints. I'm not going to sell the original of this one, so I'm just going to have it be a print how I want it to look as a print. And you can do that. But anyway, so there's that one. This next one is another one that is really experimental. This one is definitely not my typical style. I wanted to play with color. I wanted to play with markers. And this one is acrylics with oil-based markers over it. And yeah, I just wanted to play with pattern, design, and color. So I just sat down, and a lot of times, a lot of these were done while I was like watching TV at night and just kind of hanging out. Okay, so you may also recognize this one, but it looks a little different than the last time you saw it, and that's because I hated it. This one is from my Art Snacks video where I got to build my own box, which was a fun idea. And I tried to stick with just using the materials that came in that box. And I had some inks and some Daniel Smith watercolor and more of the Royal Talons gouache because they had some on their website. So I'm like, yeah, I want other colors. And yeah, I just came up with this fun little scene, but there was not enough contrast, and it bugged me. Every time I went to get into this sketchbook to create something new and I would pass this page, it would bug the ever-loving crap out of me. And so eventually I ended up just adding silver to it to make it pop, and that was with an oil-based marker. And look how fun that is. Like, I love it so much more now with the shine. It, you know, gives a lot of contrast, and it still adds to the magical feel. And now I don't want to retch when I pass the page. So don't ever be afraid to go back and adjust things. And again, this is not something I'm selling. I don't have prints offered of it or anything like that. It was just a way to play with materials at the time. And yeah, So I went back and I made it something I liked a lot more later on. This one was just another fun one playing with watercolor. I love birds and stuff like that, and I just wanted to play with color and saturation. I think that I had seen something by Lindsay, the Frugal Crafter. She had done some watercolor birds in some form using watercolor where she like had wet it first and then dripped the watercolor in or something like that. And that's what, like, I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds like so much fun. So this isn't like, it doesn't look like hers, but the idea kind of stemmed from that idea of just dripping watercolor into, you know, I drew it out and then I wet the area and then I let the watercolor just mishmash together. But I left it really undetailed. And then of course, I loved doing like a little border of splashes. I just wanted high saturation and color and to watch colors meld together. And that's where that came from. This one was just another one where I wanted to play with some of the Pitt pens. I didn't really go into it with much of a vision, and it's not one of my favorites, but it's not the worst either. Again, I love playing with pattern and color, and I wanted the rainbow scheme. And sometimes I would just play with whatever I had down here. So as you know, I've been working on my studio, and so I haven't had an actual studio space for a long time. I've been working mostly in my living room, and I keep some art supplies down here, and that could be varied depending on what kind of finished piece I'm doing. And so I happen to have the markers down here at the time and some colored pencil and just went with it. Okay, so this one was a lot of fun. This was from the Paint Chip Poetry game, and I do have a video about that, but it's a different illustration. This was one that I did before I did my video. I think this was the first illustration I did using the Paint Chip Poetry game as a prompt guide situation. So basically, Paint Chip Poetry it's an artist or a writer's game, and it has all these paint chips. I have a video on it, and you know, you can watch that on the channel as well. But it has like these little paint chips in it, and the colors also have like a word written on it. And the words that I had, I believe, were cocoa, grandmother's hydrangea, wishing well, balloon, and inchworm. And then the colors that I had were like this light purple, this light blue, brown, and yellow. And I think maybe this color green. I can't remember for sure. And the red for the balloon. So I basically used the color scheme and the words and came up with this little illustration of a hot cocoa in front of a window where you can see grandmother's hydrangeas and the wishing well. And of course there's a balloon floating around. And a little inchworm who came to have cocoa with us. So this one was a ton of fun. I love working with prompts. I highly recommend trying it because I didn't know what I wanted to draw that day. And then I came up with this complete thing because I looked at a few color swatches that had words on them. And it was just fun and relaxing. And this was done with the Faber-Castell Pitt pens. This one was one that I just did out of the blue. It's mostly inspired by my cat, Luna. I have a little black cat named Luna. And I just wanted to sit down and play with watercolors. And there's, well, I think it was actually the watercolor markers as a base. So the Albrecht Dürer watercolor markers, yeah. And then there's also Pitt pen, gel pen, and acrylic in here as well. Just a fun little moon illustration. I think it's wicked sweet. Okay, here it is, folks. So this is the piece that makes me an artist. I love this piece. I don't know what it is about this. It is so different. It's so wild and like just a switch from what I normally do. And I just love it. I love how matte it is. Like there's not a lot of shine other than the gold. And I wanted to mainly just play with acrylic markers. And acrylic markers tend to be pretty matte. And so I just had this vision in mind of like this matte drawing of fruit. And that's what I started with, was the fruit and the basket. And then like the fun wallpaper. I don't know. I had so much fun with this, and it is so different from what I normally do. I love it so much. This is one of my favorite pieces as well, even though it's just Not what I normally do. Okay, so this one you probably will recognize from my paint poetry or paint chip poetry video. So that's the one where that's the video where I actually showed you the paint chip poetry game and how to use prompts from it. And this one is, the theme was What the World Needs, Fountain of Youth, Forget Me Not, Fern, and Four-Leaf Clover. I had so much fun with this. And again, the color scheme, I ended up really loving the colors that I pulled. Just a blast. So definitely check out that video if you haven't already. And then this one is actually one that I've drawn before, and it's a reference photo. It's from a reference photo that I took a long time ago. I have an acrylic painting of this that is much more realistic, but I just love it, and I loved like drawing flowers and stuff. And again, it was one of those days where I really wanted to get creative, but I didn't want to have to do like, I didn't want to start a whole new realism piece. I just wanted to sit in my sketchbook and do something that wasn't going to take me 5 days to do. And so I went through my reference photos and I decided to redraw this rose again. And this one was a lot of fun. It's the Albrecht Dürer watercolor markers, Pitt pens, and then I think a little bit of gel pen to get the highest highlights on the water drops. I love how like graphic and like illustrative it looks. Like it has its realistic elements, but it also has it like almost like a pop art feel to it. This one is another abstract surprise piece. I wanted to kind of deal with geometric shapes. I put tape down to make all these fun shapes. And then again, I love rainbows, and so I came in with a rainbow scheme. This is done with acrylic markers. So then I colored each shape with its corresponding color. And then I decided that I wanted more pop. So I decided to do like this fun leafy vine that went throughout all of them. And then when I tore the tape up, I wasn't a huge fan with the way the edges looked. So I ended up just adding some gold to it. And again, like it's a nice fun shine to it. I actually really love the way the gold looks on it. So I'm glad that I added that border. And yeah, again, not my usual kind of subject, but that's kind of the subjects that I like to do in my sketchbook lately. Just playing around with color and shape and getting back to the basics, and even like exploring abstract and abstract compositions. This one was where I reviewed the Van Gogh watercolors recently. Well, I say recently, but it was back in July. Definitely had a ton of fun with this one. A little bit more on the abstract side. Got the chance to really, really play with those colors and the textures, and the way it dried is just so beautiful. Like the way the colors layered, and like I love this spot here where there's like all this mottled texture. I don't know if that's showing up very well, but and where you can kind of see some purple and blue and green in there. I don't know. I just love that look. That's one of my favorite things about watercolor is when you get those really cool granulations and textures, and yeah. All right. This one is inspired by the season. This was actually done. I am such a fall girl. This was done back in August. Like I was ready for fall. We were growing pumpkins in our garden, and there was nothing. That was like the most exciting thing that happened to me this year, is growing those damn pumpkins. Let me tell you, I love pumpkins. I am a pumpkin girl. I'm not like the pumpkin spice girl that goes out and has to get the pumpkin spice coffee necessarily. Not that I mind the flavor, but pumpkins themselves, something about them, I love them so much. And so we had started growing some, we grew some in our garden last year too, but the ones in our garden this year, they were fantastic. They were humongous. And so this was before they had even really fully grown. And this isn't like a drawing of the specific pumpkins, but it's kind of inspired by being out in the garden and checking on the pumpkins every day. So I did this from imagination, but it was inspired by my life with my pumpkins. Okay, going back to, oh yeah, and I should say this one was Holbein watercolors with some Pitt pens for details. Back to abstract land. I really was in the mood to do something like stained glass themed, And this is also kind of inspired by MS Paint, which bear with me now. So Microsoft Paint, we all have had it on our computers, and man, I loved playing with it as a kid, and I still do. And I like their shape tool where you can just create triangles and things like that. And one of the things that I do, because it's like my form of doodling on the computer is using MS Paint, is I'll just make all these shapes, and then I like to take the colors that they have, like, you know how they have their set standard colors, and like intertwine like the first color with the next color, and then that color with the next color after that. And that's kind of what inspired this. And I've always done that, like ever since I was a kid and I had my first, you know, my mom had our first computer or whatever, and I tried MS Paint for the first time. It's just something that I've always liked to do. And so like I started out with the dark red intertwined with the lighter red, and then the lighter red intertwined with the orange, and then the orange intertwined, whatever. So that's basically what inspired this, is my early years doodling in Microsoft Paint. And I just wanted to, again, play with geometric shapes. They're not perfect. They're all just hand-drawn in there. I think I might have used a little bit of a ruler just to get these straight lines, but as far as the triangles go, I just kind of went with it. And these were done with, I think, the oil-based paint pens by Imuki. So this, going into this next page, this is probably the strongest contrast in styles. But this next page is one of my absolute favorites. And this one was done using the So Flat Matte acrylic and some acrylic gouache by Holbein. And again, I didn't have a reference for it. I just wanted to play with bright colors and the sunset and do some water. And I'm really, really happy with how it came out, considering I didn't have anything to look at for it. It just kind of came out from my heart, and I love it. One of my absolute favorite pieces. I might offer prints of it, but I'm not sure. If that's something you'd be interested in, and let me know in the comments below, because I do love it. I'm obviously never going to sell the original, but it was a lot of fun. But I have to laugh because it's like, it looks like two completely different artists did these two pieces. I just think it's so funny. And that's one reason why I love like just flipping through this book. And as we go further, I am getting more and more consistent. I did a lot of this stuff in 2021 and 2022. Like most of it in 2022, I really just started getting into being more regular, again, without any limitations on myself, without making myself do it. I have just become a little bit more regular in my sketchbook this year. I love this one. Okay, going back to Stained Glass Land. This one was done with Pitt pastel, not Pitt pastels, why am I saying that? Pitt markers. Pitt pens. I have said the word a million times in this video, and for some reason I just forgot the words Pitt artist pens. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to make it kind of look like a stained glass window. It's some tulips. It's very abstract, very colorful, and a lot of fun. And a kind of a limited color palette. I wanted the warmest colors to be in the flowers themselves, and then have some cooler colors in the background. Okay, here we go again. This one's another one of my favorites. I might sell prints of this one too at some point. I just wanted to play with gouache. And I love drawing these flowers. They're the purple cone flowers. Even though they're more pink, they're called purple cone flowers. I've drawn these a lot in my artwork. You've seen me draw a fairy with them. You've seen me try the acrylic gouache with them. I just love these flowers. And this time I did them from imagination. I didn't have a reference for them. I just did it out of memory, and because I've drawn them so much. And I just think they're so fun. And I had fun playing with the contrasting leaves and layering the gouache. And I came in with some gel pen to make it feel a little bit more magical with like these little baby's breath and highlights and things like that. And I just love it. I think it's so fun and magical and peaceful. It's like enchanted. That's how it feels to me. But yeah, if you'd like to see me offer prints of this one, let me know, because I don't believe I have uploaded this online at all yet. And then this one is just another fun experiment that I just sat down and painted, and this is what I came up with. I wouldn't say it's necessarily an experiment. I had no goal. I just thought, let's do a landscape. I think I probably started with the sky and then put the mountains in, and then it just went from there. It's very plain, but a lot of fun, and it's with gouache and Pitt pen. Okay, I'm excited about this one too. This one is one of my more recent pieces, and this one is inspired by the book Color Astrology. And basically it's just a book. Actually, I think I have it here. Let me see. This is the book, and basically you find your birth date and you find out what your color is. And then of course it has some like information about that date and whatnot. Kind of like, you know, a little bit of astrology to it. And so what I did was I found my color and which is this color. And then I found my sister's colors too. And so this is my oldest sister, Stacy. This is my other older sister, Sonia. And this is me. And so I just used our colors. And of course, I've already told you, I'm obsessed with pumpkins. It's that time of year. This was just done on the 1st of October. And I had so much fun with this. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do initially. I knew I wanted to do pumpkins, so I started with the drawing of pumpkins, and then I just went from there, and I just used those colors as my scheme. Now, I didn't have the exact color. I had to mix some things, and this is definitely a mixed media piece. It's watercolor, and I think I used the Van Gogh watercolors for this, Pitt pens, and the Neocolor one crayons. And that's because I was able to find like the colors that I basically needed. And I also just wanted to see how well these did together. And yeah, so Stacy's the oldest, Sonia's the middle child, and I'm the baby. And so that's why it goes large to small. So it's just the 3 sisters. I had so much fun with it. I love it so much. I want to do some in the future in other sketchbooks using mine and my husband's colors and mine and my best friend's colors and things like that, and that will come down the line. But I thought these colors looked great together, and I love the way the sky turned out with that nice watercolor wash. It was just a blast to do. All right, things about to get crazy. This was just a page of doodles. I did this when I was not feeling well, and you can tell it just was crazy. And this is done with just like a Pitt pen. I had the edges taped, and I just started with some little designs and just worked out from there, kind of like a Zentangle. Really no rhyme or reason behind it, just kind of fitting everything together like puzzle pieces. It's loud in the sense that it's just so much going on at once, but not in the sense that it's only black and white. It's pretty cool, but you can definitely tell, like, I was definitely under the weather there. And then this one is inspired by fall time. And again, I was still under the weather here with the virus. And, excuse me. And I have basically been in the house almost all month because I've been sick for like 3 weeks. And so I would look out the window, and I was getting inspired by the fact that we have evergreens in our yard, but then there's a mix of like deciduous trees and stuff like that behind them. So like you can see this orange glow of the trees behind the evergreens. And that's kind of what inspired this. It definitely was not executed the way I would have liked it. Again, I wasn't feeling well, and so I was working basically off of memory and just playing with color and just trying to relax and not put any pressure on myself, because I wanted to do it as more of a therapy thing. And then, so I did that with gouache, and then I came over it with paint pen to do kind of the confetti of leaves around it. So it's fun, but it's definitely not my favorite in this. And probably because when I look back on it and this one, like, they're not going to be my favorites because I just think about how I felt like utter crap when I was making them. And so, yeah, but I kind of felt like October was passing me by. And so that was one reason why I painted this piece. Okay, now for the last piece, which I actually did this morning. And that is another one to celebrate fall. I didn't do this from any reference photos. It's mostly from memory, but I do have similar reference photos that I have taken around the yard. We have a stream that runs out back. We also have like a little pond that we put a fountain in. And so I've taken numerous pictures with this kind of scheme, with this dark blue. And the reason why I've taken the pictures is because I love the way the sky reflects when there's when it's deeper, like when the water is deeper and it's so dark, but then you have that kind of blue sheen over it, and then you have the lighter blue and white sheen from reflections, but then where like leaves are creating shadows on the water from above, it looks almost black. Like, those are the things that I love about looking at a stream with leaves on them. And so that's what I was trying to incorporate here. I wanted to have like the contrast of this blue with the leaves that are floating on top. And so I wanted to have these faded leaves that look like they're below. I mean, of course, this is not photographic, obviously, because I didn't use it as a reference, but I am looking through my references because I do want to do a more detailed, realistic piece using this theme. I have references that I've took years ago that I've wanted to use. And yeah, it's definitely an inspiration, and I really wanted to keep it mostly jewel toned with some of these, like with the blue, and then like, yeah, I'm definitely happy with how it came out considering. And then maybe someday in the future I will do that theme later on, but for now it was just a fun piece. I actually went out this morning and gathered some leaves and used the leaves to trace the top ones and work out my composition. And then the other leaves below, I just kind of drew and painted out of memory and from looking at the leaves that I had set aside here. And yeah. So yeah, that is my sketchbook. What do you think? Let me know what your favorite piece was, and if there's any that you'd like to see done as prints. Maybe I'll do some ads, you know, scan some of these in that aren't already scanned in. I will link my print site in the description below, and I'll try to link individual pieces that are in here that I already have uploaded as prints if you're interested. And again, I'll try to link related videos below as well. So thank you so much for watching. I am so excited to see where I go from here. I have a sketchbook in the wings, like waiting for me to start on it. You've seen it because I designed the cover on it in a video before. It's my Jane Davenport one, so I'll probably start on that next. I'm a little nervous about that because I really liked working at this size. It was so unassuming and just easy to do quick things in. And so I'm nervous about working in a larger sketchbook, but we'll see how that goes. You'll probably see that sketchbook in a lot of videos coming up in the near future. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this. I will see you next week. You have a great day. Bye.
If you found value in this video, please feel free to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and share so others can see it as well. Thank you.